She made the world laugh, cry, and believe that a single woman could have it all. Her bright smile lit up millions of living rooms, and her charm defined a generation. But behind the sparkle of television stardom was a life filled with secrets, struggles, and pain few ever saw. This is not just the story of Mary Tyler Moore, the beloved actress who brought Mary Richards to life. It's the untold truth behind the woman who changed TV, lost everything, and left behind more than anyone imagined. Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. Mary Tyler Moore was born on December 29, 1936, in Brooklyn, New York, to George Tyler Moore and Marjorie Hackett. She was the eldest of 3 children in a Catholic family that seemed picture perfect on the outside. But inside their home, things were not always happy. Her father was a clerk, quiet and serious, while her mother battled with alcoholism, something that left a lasting impact on young Mary. She would later describe her childhood as emotionally distant, a foundation that shaped the woman she became. When Mary was just 8 years old, her family moved to Los Angeles. The Golden City was supposed to offer new beginnings, but the challenges followed them. Her mother's drinking continued, and Mary often felt alone, seeking comfort in dance and imagination. Despite the family issues, she found joy in performing. She studied ballet and dreamed of becoming a dancer, never knowing the spotlight was already waiting for her. Mary went to St. Rose of Lima, a Catholic school, and then to Immaculate Heart High School. Her teachers described her as smart, graceful, and a little shy. But there was a fire in her, a drive to prove herself, to rise above her upbringing and make a name of her own. It was during these years that she realized performing was not just a dream. It was her escape, her purpose, her survival. What pushed Mary from a shy girl in a troubled home to a face on millions of television screens? Mary Tyler Moore did not step into fame overnight. Before the world knew her as the confident and independent Mary Richards, she faced years of rejection, self-doubt, and unglamorous beginnings. Her journey into show business was far from smooth, but her determination never wavered. In her late teens, Mary dreamed of becoming a dancer. She started working in television commercials, using her graceful figure and poise to sell products. Her first notable job came in the form of a pair of legs, quite literally. She appeared as the dancing legs in a commercial for Hot Point appliances, standing next to a cartoon elf. Her face was never shown, only her legs, but it was her first break. At that time, she believed it was just a stepping stone to bigger opportunities, and she was right. However, those opportunities did not come easily. Mary auditioned for numerous roles and was turned away repeatedly. Casting directors often told her she was too pretty or not the right type. Others simply did not believe she had the talent. Those words hurt, but Mary used them as fuel. She refused to give up. At the age of 18, she married Richard Meeker, a man nearly a decade older. She soon gave birth to her only child, Richie. Balancing motherhood with career ambition was not easy. Money was tight, and acting gigs were rare. There were moments when she considered quitting altogether, but deep inside, she knew she was meant for something more. Her breakthrough came in 1959 when she landed a small but recurring role as a telephone receptionist on the popular detective series Richard Diamond, Private Detective. Her face was still hidden, but her voice and charisma caught attention. What came next would change Mary's life forever, and television history along with it.
The turning point in Mary Tyler Moore's career arrived in 1961, when she was cast as Laura Petrie in The Dick Van Dyke Show. At the time, she was still relatively unknown, but producer Carl Reiner saw something special in her. He believed she had the perfect blend of beauty, charm, and comedic timing. And he was right. Mary did not just play the role. She became Laura Petrie, the witty and stylish wife who was far more than a background character. Her performance revolutionized the image of women on television. Audiences loved her. She brought something fresh to the screen. A modern woman who could be both strong and loving, humorous and sincere. She even challenged the typical image of housewives by wearing capri pants on screen, a small detail that sparked national attention and added to her rising influence. Mary quickly became a household name, winning her first Emmy Award in 1964. Fame had finally arrived, but it brought its own pressures. After The Dick Van Dyke Show ended in 1966, Mary took time to focus on her personal life. She had divorced Richard Meeker and later married television executive Grant Tinker. Though she took on a few film roles, none brought the same spark of success. Until the 1970s, when a bold new idea took shape. In 1970, Mary returned to television with The Mary Tyler Moore Show. This time, she was not just the lead actress, she was also a producer. Her character, Mary Richards, was a single, career-focused woman in her 30s, living alone and navigating life on her own terms. It was groundbreaking. Audiences had never seen anything like it before, and the show became an instant hit. But what was life really like behind the scenes of her most iconic show? While Mary Tyler Moore became the shining face of empowerment and elegance on television, the real spaces she called home painted a much different picture. One of the most talked about places in recent years is a once beautiful house that now stands quiet, empty, and forgotten. Her former Connecticut estate. What was once a haven filled with laughter, ambition, and the rhythm of a star's life now lies in silence, its walls holding secrets time cannot erase. Located in Greenwich, Connecticut, the house was large, elegant, and surrounded by lush greenery. Mary lived there during some of her most successful years, and it served as a sanctuary away from the Hollywood spotlight. With its sweeping staircase, tall windows, and a grand fireplace, the estate reflected both wealth and taste. But behind its polished exterior, it also became the setting for some of Mary's most painful chapters. She and her second husband, Grant Tinker, shared the home during their marriage. It was where she tried to maintain a sense of normalcy, hosting quiet dinners, taking long walks on the property, and retreating into books and music. The home became even more significant during her periods of personal grief. After the tragic loss of her only son, Richie, in 1980, the house carried an unbearable weight of sorrow. Though she continued to live there for some time, it was never the same again. After her divorce from Tinker and the later passing years, the estate began to lose its warmth. Mary eventually moved away, leaving behind not just a house, but a lifetime of memories, some too heavy to carry. The grand estate, once full of light and life, slowly aged without her, abandoned but not forgotten. What stories did this house witness? And how did the walls absorb her silent heartbreak? Behind Mary Tyler Moore's glowing smile and graceful poise was a woman who yearned for connection. But love did not always come easily. Her personal relationships were marked by deep affection, quiet heartbreak, and emotional distance, much like the roles she portrayed on screen. Her love life was layered, not always picture-perfect, but undeniably real. Mary married her first husband, Richard Meeker, at the age of 18. It was a rushed union driven by youth and circumstance. Richard was a meter reader turned sales executive, and their marriage was strained by financial stress and Mary growing ambition. They had one child, a son named Richie, but their relationship grew cold. They divorced in 1961. The same year, Mary found her first major television role. As her star began to rise, their bond quietly faded. In 1962, Mary met Grant Tinker, a television executive who would become both her second husband and her business partner. Their marriage seemed like a perfect match, creative, professional, and forward-moving. Together, they co-founded MTM Enterprises, the company behind The Mary Tyler Moore Show. At first, their relationship was filled with shared success, but over time, distance crept in. Both were dedicated to their careers, and emotional intimacy was often sacrificed for ambition.
They divorced in 1981 after nearly 20 years of marriage. Mary's third and final marriage came in 1983 when she wed Dr. Robert Levine, a cardiologist 17 years her junior. Surprisingly, this became her most stable and loving partnership. Robert brought calmness into her often chaotic world. He was supportive, grounded, and remained by her side until the very end. Their relationship lasted over 3 decades, weathering both public attention and private pain. Through each marriage, Mary longed for love that lasted, but fame, grief, and time often stood in the way. Still, she never stopped hoping. Mary Tyler Moore's legacy is not only artistic, but also financial. Over a career that spanned more than 5 decades, she built a fortune through television, film, and smart business decisions. Yet, as with many parts of her life, What she left behind was more complex than it appeared. At the height of her fame during the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Mary was one of the highest paid women in television. She was not only the star, but also a producer, a rare position for a woman at that time. Through MTM Enterprises, which she co-founded with then-husband Grant Tinker, she oversaw multiple hit shows, including The Bob Newhart Show, Hill Street Blues, and WKRP in Cincinnati. The company grew into a television powerhouse, and Mary's earnings soared. By the 1980s, her net worth was estimated to be in the tens of millions. However, the exact numbers fluctuated as she faced personal and professional changes. The sale of MTM Enterprises after her divorce from Tinker altered her financial holdings significantly, and although she received a share of the profits, it was less than what she might have earned had she remained a long-term stakeholder. In addition to her acting and business income, Mary was a passionate philanthropist. She donated generously to diabetes research, animal welfare, and children's health causes. Diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in her early 30s, she used her platform to raise awareness and support medical research, often giving away millions quietly without headlines. When she passed away in 2017, her estimated net worth was around $60 million. She left the majority of her estate to her husband, Dr. Robert Levine, and selected charitable foundations. Surprisingly, very little was passed down through family, as she had no surviving children or close heirs. But while her fortune was carefully managed, her life was not without hardship. Some of her darkest chapters would never be shown on screen. But what about the wealth she built over decades of stardom? And what happened to it after her passing? Behind Mary Tyler Moore's polished public image lay a series of deep personal struggles that were rarely discussed openly during her lifetime. To millions, she was the radiant woman who tossed her hat in the air with joy. But off-screen, life was not always kind to Mary. The setbacks she faced were heavy, and the controversies that followed quietly chipped away at her strength. One of the most tragic moments in Mary's life came in 1980, when her only son, Richie Meeker, died from an accidental gunshot wound at the age of 24. The loss shattered her. Richie had struggled with emotional issues and substance abuse during his youth, and Mary often blamed herself for not being more present. She described his death as a wound that would never close. For a woman who was known for playing nurturing roles, the grief of losing her child was a burden she carried in silence. Her battles with alcoholism also became public over time. Mary had started drinking heavily during the later years of her marriage to Grant Tinker. She entered rehabilitation in the 1980s and later spoke openly about her recovery. Though she overcame her addiction, it became a lifelong struggle that left deep scars. Professionally, she faced criticism for some of her career choices after the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Her attempt to return to sitcom television with Mary in 1985 flopped, and critics were harsh. They questioned whether her time in the spotlight had passed. For someone who had been so loved by audiences, the rejection felt personal. There were also tensions with co-stars and colleagues that occasionally made headlines. Though never dramatic or scandalous, stories surfaced about Mary's perfectionism and emotional distance on set. Some admired her high standards, others felt intimidated by them. Yet through every fall, Mary stood back up. But could she ever truly find peace again? In her later years, Mary Tyler Moore may have stepped out of the daily spotlight, but she never faded from the hearts of those who admired her. Her spirit, talent, and strength remained unforgettable. While she did not stage a grand Hollywood comeback in the traditional sense, the way she lived, and how she chose to be remembered, became her most powerful act of all. After facing personal losses and professional setbacks, Mary gradually withdrew from the public eye. Her health began to decline due to complications from diabetes, which she had battled for decades. In addition to vision problems and heart issues, she underwent surgery on her brain in 2011. These challenges were immense, but Mary continued to show grace and resilience. Even in the toughest moments, she never let go of her dignity. Still, she left behind an indelible legacy. Her portrayal of Mary Richards redefined what it meant to be a woman on television. For the first time, audiences saw a female character who was single, successful, and unapologetically independent. She paved the way for future icons, from Oprah Winfrey to Tina Fey, who often cited her as an inspiration. Mary made it acceptable, even admirable, for women to put their careers first and to define happiness on their own terms. Mary was honored with 7 Emmy Awards, a Tony Award nomination, and a special tribute at the 2012 Screen Actors Guild Award. That same year, a bronze statue was erected in Minneapolis, capturing the iconic moment from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, where she tosses her hat into the air, a symbol of joy, hope, and freedom. She passed away on January 25, 2017, at the age of 80, surrounded by her husband and close friends. The world mourned her loss, but also celebrated a life that had touched millions. Mary Tyler Moore did not just change television. She changed lives. And even though she is gone, her legacy continues to inspire, comfort, and uplift generations who believe that somehow they are going to make it after all.